How did my upgrade end with a court worker handing me papers in a bright lobby while strangers watched? Why did my unemployed husband stay calm for months, then show numbers that made my stomach drop? What happens when the man you mocked turns out to be the only one who prepared legally, and you did not? My name is Valancy Sloane, and I used to think my life looked fine from the outside. We had a small house, a child who smiled at strangers, and a marriage that lasted long enough to look serious. People think that kind of life is safe. I thought it meant I could relax. I thought it meant I could stop trying so hard. But then I started to feel trapped. I started to feel like I was the only adult in the room. Ethan, my husband, was 35 and between jobs. That was the polite way to say it. I told myself it was only for a short time. I told myself it was normal. But the months kept moving. Every morning, I put on my clinic badge and went out the door. Every morning, he stayed inside and moved slowly, like there was no clock. He still made coffee. He still packed Mara's lunch sometimes. He still paid the small bills on time. None of that felt like real work to me. It felt like crumbs. I wanted a plan. I wanted direction. I wanted him to look worried the way I looked worried. He often asked why I was tense. I said I was tired from carrying everything. He said he was trying. I said trying was not the same as doing. He asked what I needed. I said he already knew what I needed, and he was acting confused on purpose. I made it sound like he was playing games. I did that because it helped me feel clean. If he was the problem, then I was the solution. In the kitchen, I started to notice small things that made me angry for no reason. 2 mugs sat on opposite sides of the counter, like a quiet line. His mug was always rinsed and placed neatly. Mine had lipstick marks sometimes, and I hated that detail because it looked messy. A sticky note appeared on the fridge that said, "Bring forms." I assumed it was for job stuff. I assumed it was another almost. Once I heard a drawer click in the hallway office when I walked by. Ethan closed it fast and kept his face calm. He said he was organizing the house papers. I said it was strange that he organized when he could not work. He looked at me for a moment and then looked away. That quiet look made me feel like I was losing control, so I got sharper. Mara was 8, and she watched us like a small judge who never spoke. She asked why Dad ate alone sometimes. I said he liked quiet. She asked why Mom had headaches. I said adults had stress. She asked if we were still a team. I said families change and still stay strong. I used words that sounded safe. I wanted her to stop asking. At the dental clinic, my life felt louder and easier. The front desk had phones ringing, patients complaining, assistants rushing past. I liked that. It made me feel needed. Priya, my coworker, asked how Ethan was doing. I said he was still refusing to get serious. I made my voice light, like it was a joke. Cassidy Vale, my friend from high school, came in for a cleaning and sat in my chair like she owned the place. She asked if I was still dealing with the unemployed prince. I laughed too hard and said Ethan was acting like I should thank him for washing dishes. I knew I was painting him in a bad color. I also knew it worked. People leaned in, people nodded. They love a story where one person is the hero who suffers and the other is the villain who wastes air. I liked that feeling of being the hero. It gave me energy. It made me feel like my anger was proof of my value. That afternoon, I scrolled on my phone in the break room. I saw other women posting trips, dinners, and shiny gifts. I saw husbands holding bags, opening doors, smiling for photos. I told myself those women had standards. I told myself I had lowered mine. I told myself Ethan had tricked me with nice. I did not say out loud that I had also liked nice when it served me. When I got home, Ethan was in the kitchen again. He asked how work was. I said work was fine and I did not want to talk. He asked if I wanted dinner. I said I was not hungry, even though I was. He asked if something happened. I said nothing happened, and he was making it about him. He looked at me like he wanted to understand. I hated that look. It made me feel like I was the cruel one. He walked to the sink, and his phone lit up on the counter. I saw a calendar reminder flash across the screen. It said something like, downtown 10:40 a.m. The name under it was just, meeting, personal. He turned the phone over quickly, like it was a reflex. He did not snatch it away. He did not panic. He just moved it, and then he washed his hands like normal. I asked where he was going tomorrow. He said he had an appointment. I asked what kind. He said it was personal and he would handle it. I said it was funny how he could handle personal things but not a job. He did not raise his voice. He said he would talk later when Mara was not in the room. I said there was always an excuse, always a later. Mara sat at the table colouring, and her pencil slowed down. That night, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. Ethan slept on the edge like he was trying not to touch me. I told myself he was rejecting me. I told myself he was punishing me. I did not admit that I had been pushing him away for months. I did not admit that I liked the distance because it gave me space to think other thoughts. In the morning, I woke up to an alarm on his phone that said, paper drop. He turned it off fast. He did not look at me. He went downstairs and moved quietly, like he did not want to wake me. The house smelled faintly like toner, like a printer ran in the night. I told myself he was printing resumes again and failing again. I told myself it was pathetic. I held on to that thought because it was easier than wondering what else he could be doing. At work, I told Cassidy that I was done pretending. I said I was tired of raising a grown man. I said I deserved a partner, not a project. Cassidy asked if I was serious. I said I had been serious for a long time, and nobody listened. Priya heard part of it and told me to be careful with my words. I said Priya was too soft and did not understand. Priya asked if Ethan had ever harmed me. I said he harmed me with his laziness and his cold silence. I watched Priya's face tighten. I decided her doubt was an attack, so I ignored it. Later that day, Cassidy sent me a message about a local businessman she knew, Gavin Rourke, who owned a cafe and had his life together. She said he liked strong women. She said he liked women who knew their worth. I stared at the message longer than I should have. I felt a small thrill, like a door opening. When I got home, Ethan was helping Mara with homework. He looked normal. He looked steady. That steadiness made me feel small, so I told myself it was fake. He asked if I could sign a school form. I said he could do it since he had so much free time. He paused and then nodded. He signed it without a word. I felt like I had won, and I also felt sick. I did not let myself sit with that feeling. I picked up my phone and started typing to Cassidy again, shaping the story the way I wanted it to be. I told myself it was only coffee. I told myself it was a simple meeting, the kind adults do when they want a better life. Cassidy sent me the address for Rourke Cafe, with a little crown emoji and a line that said, Gavin likes women with standards. I read it twice. I felt warm in my chest, like I was about to prove something. The next afternoon, I left the clinic on time, but I did not drive home. I drove downtown and parked 2 blocks away, like that mattered. I looked in the mirror and fixed my hair. I did not dress in anything wild. I dressed like I was busy and important. I wanted Gavin to see that I was not a mess. I wanted him to see that I was a choice. Rourke Cafe smelled like toasted bread and citrus cleaner. It was clean in a careful way. Gavin was behind the counter at first, talking to a worker. When he noticed me, his face opened fast, like we already had history. He came around and offered his hand. He said he was glad I came. I said I was only there because Cassidy insisted. He asked what I did. I said I ran the front desk at a dental clinic and kept the place alive. He laughed and said I sounded like a person who handled real problems. I liked that. We sat in a back booth. Gavin asked about my marriage. I said it was complicated. He asked if I was happy. I said no, but I was trying. I did not say I was also making it worse. He asked if Ethan was kind. I said Ethan was kind but not a man. I chose those words on purpose. I wanted Gavin to feel like I needed him. I wanted him to feel like Ethan failed a test. Gavin asked why Ethan was not working. I said Ethan had no drive and lived in comfort while I paid for everything. That was not fully true, but it sounded clean. It sounded like a simple story. Gavin shook his head and said a woman like me should not feel alone in her own house. I nodded like he had named a truth nobody else could say. I felt seen. That feeling was like a drug. He offered me a pastry on the house. I took it, even though I knew it was a line. He leaned forward and asked if I ever thought of leaving. I said I did not know. I also said Ethan and I were basically roommates now. I watched Gavin's eyes when I said that. They brightened. He asked if Ethan noticed me anymore. I said Ethan did not initiate anything, and then acted like I was the problem. I did not mention how often I shut him down first. I did not mention how I rolled my eyes when he tried. When I looked at my phone, I saw missed calls from home. No caller ID showed, just a blank line. I told myself it was spam. I put the phone face down. Gavin asked if I had to go. I said no. I could stay a little. I liked that I could say that. I liked feeling like I had control. On the drive home, I practiced my story. Ethan asked where I was. I said I ran errands. Ethan asked what errands. I said I did not keep a list for him. Ethan asked why I smelled like coffee. I said it was because I stopped at a cafe near the clinic. I told myself that was true enough. At home, Ethan was in the kitchen with Mara. He was cutting fruit into neat pieces. Mara was telling him a school story and making sound effects. Ethan listened like he had all the time in the world. That made me angry again. It looked like peace, and I did not want him to have peace. Ethan asked how my day was. I said busy. He asked if I ate. I said yes. He asked where I went after work. I said to the supermarket. He looked at me for a second and then nodded. He did not challenge me. He did not even press. That quiet acceptance felt insulting, like he did not care. I told myself he was cold. I told myself he was passive-aggressive. Mara asked if we could all watch a movie later. I said I had a headache. After Mara went to bed, Ethan asked if we could talk. I said there was nothing to talk about. He said he felt distance. I said he created the distance when he stopped being ambitious. He said he was trying to keep the house stable. I said stable was not love. He asked if someone else was in my life. I laughed and said he was paranoid. I said he always tried to turn things around on me. He went quiet. I heard a soft beep from his phone, like a small sound that did not belong. I pretended I did not hear it. Over the next week, I found reasons to go back to the cafe. I said I was picking up takeout. I said I was meeting Cassidy. I said I needed space because Ethan stressed me out. Gavin acted like he was surprised each time, but he was always ready. He asked about my dreams. He asked what kind of life I wanted. I said I wanted a partner who added value, not a man who waited for life to happen. Gavin said I deserved to be chosen every day. I agreed fast. One evening, Gavin invited me to a rooftop bar downtown. He said some local owners would be there. He called it networking. I told myself networking was not cheating. I told myself cheating was only physical, and I was not doing that. I did not ask what I was doing then. I did not want to name it. I told Ethan I had a work dinner. He asked why it was last minute. I said it was because he never understood how real jobs worked. He asked who would watch Mara. I said he could handle one night since he had so much free time. He said he would do it. He did not argue. That made me feel like he was trying to look good, so I pushed again. I said he should not act like a hero for parenting his own child. He looked down and said, okay. The rooftop bar was loud but pretty. The city lights made people look softer. Gavin introduced me to 2 men and a woman. He said I was sharp and organized and kept a whole clinic running. I smiled like I was humble, but inside I felt tall. When Gavin put his hand lightly on my back to guide me through the crowd, I did not move away. I told myself it was normal. I told myself Ethan would never do this because Ethan did not know how to show pride. Cassidy showed up later and took photos. She said we looked like power people. I laughed and told her to stop, but I did not mean it. Gavin bought drinks for the group. I did not get drunk. I wanted to remember everything. I wanted to hold it like proof. At one point, Gavin asked if I was sure I wanted to keep hiding. I said I was not hiding, I was protecting myself. He asked if Ethan would fight. I said Ethan never fought for anything. That was a cruel thing to say, and I said it anyway because it made my choice feel safe. Later, Cassidy tagged me in a photo. I saw it on my phone before I even left the bar. My face looked bright. Gavin looked close. The caption said something like, "Finally out with real adults." I should have told her to delete it. I did not. I watched the likes climb like a little scoreboard. When I got home, the house was dark except for the hallway light. Ethan was in the living room, sitting upright, not asleep. He asked if the dinner was good. I said yes. He asked why I was home late. I said the team stayed to talk. He asked who was there. I said people he would not know. He nodded slowly. Mara had left her backpack by the couch, and a drawing was sticking out. It showed 3 figures holding hands. One was taller than the others, and I could not tell if it was me or Ethan. I felt a sharp guilt for 1 second. Then I told myself guilt was a tool people use to trap women. Ethan said he was going to bed in the guest room again. I said fine. He paused and asked if I wanted to see a counselor together. I said counseling was for couples who both tried, and he was not trying. He said he was trying to keep our life from breaking. I said our life was already broken, and it was his fault. He did not answer. He walked down the hall in a calm way, like he was counting steps. I went to the bedroom and checked my phone again. More people had seen the rooftop photo. I noticed one name in the viewers that made my stomach tighten. It was someone Ethan knew from years ago, a person who worked in his old industry. I stared at that name and told myself it did not matter. I told myself Ethan had no right to care anymore. Then I turned the phone over and listened to the quiet house, and the silence felt different than before. My phone buzzed the next day while I was in the school pickup line. I saw the rooftop photo again because Cassidy had reposted it with more tags. People I did not even know had liked it. A few of them were women from my clinic. One was a cousin of Ethan's. I told myself it was good. I told myself it showed I was moving up. I told myself Ethan deserved to feel uncomfortable after making me feel small for so long. In the car line, other parents looked at their screens and then looked up. I felt it. I felt eyes on me like light. A mum I barely knew nodded at me with a tight smile. She asked how I was. I said I was busy. She asked if Ethan was still taking time. I said he was still figuring himself out. I made it sound like he was the child and I was the adult. I said it because it gave me power in a place where everyone judged quietly. When Mara got into the car, she asked why some kids said my husband did not have a job. I said kids repeat what they hear, and it was not her problem. She asked if Dad was bad. I said Dad was not bad, he was just stubborn. I felt proud of how calm my voice sounded. I felt like I was managing a situation. I did not think about how my words were shaping her mind. At home, Ethan was in the kitchen again. He had 2 plates out, one small and one normal. He asked if Mara wanted pasta or eggs. Mara said pasta. Ethan nodded and started cooking without looking at me much. I noticed the counter was wiped clean, like always. I noticed the trash was taken out. I noticed the dishwasher was empty. Those were helpful things. They should have made me grateful. Instead, they made me feel like he was trying to look innocent. I asked why he looked so calm lately. He said he was trying to keep peace. I said peace was easy when you had no responsibilities. He said he had responsibilities at home and with Mara. I said that was the bare minimum. He asked if we could keep our issues private for Mara's sake. I said he only cared about image now because he had nothing else. His jaw tightened for a second, then relaxed. Mara asked if we were going to Grandma Janet's restaurant this weekend. Ethan said yes, if we could all be polite. I said I was always polite, and other people were the ones who attacked me. Ethan looked at Mara and nodded slowly, like he was choosing his words carefully. That small pause irritated me. It felt like he was watching me, measuring me. Over the week, Cassidy kept stirring things. She sent me screenshots of comments under the rooftop photo. Some people called Ethan dead weight. Some called me brave. Some asked if I was leaving him. Cassidy asked if she could post a story about glow-ups. I said she could, as long as she did not use Mara's face. I told myself I was still a good mother because I set that boundary. I ignored the rest. At the clinic, Priya pulled me aside near the supply cabinet. She asked if I was okay. I said I was finally waking up. She asked if I was being careful. I said she sounded like Ethan. Priya said she was thinking about my job and my child. I said I could handle my own life. Priya asked if Ethan had found out anything. I said Ethan did not even notice me anymore. Priya did not look convinced. She told me to stop posting things that could hurt my reputation. I said my reputation was not her business. That Saturday, we drove to Janet's family restaurant for dinner. It was the kind of place with long tables and warm lights and older couples who liked routine. Ethan's parents had been going there for years. When we walked in, I felt like people knew our story already. Maybe they did. Maybe I made sure they did. At the long table, Janet greeted Mara first, then Ethan, then me. She asked how I was. I said I was doing my best. Noah nodded at me but did not smile much. Ethan sat beside Mara and helped her with a napkin. I sat across from Janet and felt like I was on trial. Renee, my mother, arrived late with Danny. Renee kissed my cheek and asked if I had seen the photo numbers. I said it was nothing. She said it looked like I was finally with a real man. I glanced at Ethan to see if he reacted. He did not. He kept his eyes on Mara's plate. The dinner started normal, then shifted. Janet asked Ethan how job searching was going. Ethan said he was taking care of things. Renee laughed and asked what things. Ethan said he was handling family needs and planning next steps. Renee said planning was not providing. I felt a rush of relief because someone else was saying what I wanted to say. I leaned into it. I told the table I was tired. I said I felt alone in the marriage. I said I carried everything. I said Ethan acted like I should be grateful for chores. Janet asked if I was serious. I said I was serious and I had been patient for years. Ethan asked if we could talk privately later. I said private talks were where men twist stories, and I wanted honesty in the open. Noah told Renee to be respectful. Renee said she was just speaking facts. Danny nodded like she was cheering me on. Cassidy was not there, but it felt like she was, like an invisible camera. Ethan stayed calm. He asked me, in a steady voice, if I wanted to stop humiliating him in front of family. I said he was humiliating himself by refusing to step up. He asked if I was seeing someone. I smiled like he was silly and said he was paranoid again. I said he was looking for a reason to blame me because he could not face his own failures. Mara's fork stopped moving. She looked at all the adults and then looked down. She asked why everyone sounded mad. I said no one was mad, we were just talking. Janet's eyes watered a little. Ethan told Mara she was safe, and adults were working things out. Mara asked if we were still a family. I said families change and still stay families. Ethan did not respond right away. He swallowed and nodded once. After dinner in the parking lot, Janet asked me to stop making scenes. I said I was not making scenes, I was telling the truth. Janet said my truth was hurting Mara. I said Mara needed to see that women should not accept less. Noah told Ethan to drive safe. Noah also told Ethan, quietly, that calm was better than chaos. I saw Noah lean in and touch Ethan's shoulder, like a silent message. On the drive home, Ethan said very little. Mara fell asleep with her head against the window. I watched the streetlight slide across her face and felt a thin line of guilt. I pushed it away. I told myself guilt was how people kept women stuck. At home, Ethan carried Mara to bed and tucked her in. I stood in the hallway and watched. He moved gently. He did not slam doors. He did not throw words. That made me feel like the loud one, and I hated that feeling. Later, when I went to the kitchen for water, I heard a low hum from the guest room. It sounded like a shredder, slow and steady. Then it stopped. I walked closer and heard a soft beep, like a phone starting something. I froze for 1 second. Then I told myself it was nothing. I told myself he was just being dramatic with paperwork again. I went back to my room and opened my phone. I posted a story about choosing peace and protecting my energy. I watched the replies come in, one after another, like small hands pushing me forward. I fell asleep with the screen still lit, telling myself I was finally doing what was right. The next week did not feel like a week. It felt like a long day that kept restarting. At the clinic, the air changed around me. People smiled, but the smiles did not land. They looked away faster than before. I heard my name in small gaps between rooms. I told myself it was because I was strong. I told myself they were jealous. That story helped me walk straight. On Tuesday, my manager asked if I could come to the HR room for a quick talk. She did not say why. She used a careful voice like she was handling glass. I said sure, like it was nothing. Inside, I felt a quick shake. I did not like being called into a quiet room. Quiet rooms make space for facts. The HR room smelled like stale coffee and printer paper. A small plant sat on the window ledge and looked tired. The HR rep asked how I was doing. I said I was fine and working hard. She asked if anything personal was affecting my work. I said no, and I smiled. She asked about my social media posts. I said I posted normal things. She said some posts seemed to talk about private family issues and could connect to staff or patients. I said people were reading too much into it. She asked if I understood how online stories can spread. I said I did, but it was my personal life. She said the clinic did not want public drama linked to the office. I said it was unfair that women could not speak. She said it was not about women, it was about professionalism. She asked me to keep the clinic out of my content. I said I never named the clinic. She said I used photos in the parking lot and wore my badge in one clip. I did not remember doing it, but I did not admit that. I said the badge was an accident. My manager asked if I needed time off. I said I did not need time off because I was not the one causing problems. The HR rep asked if I felt safe at home. I said yes, but I also said Ethan made me feel stressed with his cold silence. The HR rep asked if there was violence. I said no, nothing like that. She nodded and wrote something down anyway. That pen moving made my stomach tighten. When I left the room, Priya was waiting near the hallway. She asked what happened. I said HR was overreacting because people hated honest women. Priya said I should stop feeding the fire. I said Priya was acting like my mother, and I did not need another parent. Priya looked sad, not angry, and that made me more irritated. Sad faces make me feel like the villain. That evening, I went to the supermarket, even though we already had food. I told myself I needed fresh fruit for Mara. I also wanted a place where I could breathe without Ethan's quiet eyes. In the bright aisles, I felt calmer. I picked up things slowly, like I had time. I checked my phone between shelves. Gavin messaged and asked if I wanted to meet later at the gym lobby, just to talk. He said he liked seeing me in my element. I replied that I could, but I had to be careful because Ethan was weird lately. Gavin asked what I meant. I said Ethan watched me and asked questions like an interrogator. I said it in a joking way, but I wanted Gavin to feel protective. I wanted him to feel like Ethan was the obstacle and Gavin was the answer. At checkout, the cashier asked if I wanted a receipt. I said yes. I do not know why. I never cared before. I put the receipt in my bag and felt oddly alert, like small papers mattered more now. In the parking lot, I noticed a car 2 rows over with a dash camera stuck to the windshield. It reminded me of Ethan's car. I shook my head at myself. I told myself I was being dramatic. Then I texted Cassidy that Ethan was starting to act controlling, and she sent back a row of angry emojis. When I got home, Ethan was helping Mara with a reading sheet at the table. He asked if I found what I needed. I said yes. He asked why I bought extra things. I said I was planning like an adult. He said okay and went back to Mara. His calm was starting to feel like a wall. Walls make me want to push harder. Later, after Mara went to bed, Ethan asked if we could agree on some rules for the house. He said he wanted less arguing in front of Mara. I said rules were what weak people used when they had no love. He said he wanted peace. I said peace was not the same as respect. He asked what I meant by respect. I said respect follows results, and I had results. I heard myself say it and felt proud for a second. It sounded sharp and confident. It also sounded cruel, but I did not name it. The next day, I met Gavin at the gym lobby. The lobby smelled like rubber mats and clean towels. People came in wearing bright shoes and looking at themselves in the mirror. Gavin stood near the smoothie bar like he belonged there. He asked if I was okay. I said yes, I was fine, and Ethan was just trying to guilt me. Gavin asked what Ethan did. I said Ethan asked me where I went and acted hurt, like that was my job to fix. Gavin said a man should not make a woman feel trapped. I nodded fast. Gavin asked if I wanted to go away for a weekend soon. I said it depended. He asked what it depended on. I said on Ethan, on Mara, on my schedule. Gavin said he could handle details. That word, details, sounded like a promise. I liked it. I also felt a small fear, because details can turn into proof. That night, I came home and found Ethan in the hallway office. He had his laptop open, but when I stepped closer, he angled the screen away. I saw a plain spreadsheet layout, rows and columns, nothing flashy, no big labels, just boxes and dates. He closed it and asked if Mara was asleep. I said yes. He said okay, and walked to the kitchen. I followed him and asked what he was working on. He said household organization. I laughed and said he was obsessed with paper because he had no job. He did not argue. He opened a drawer, and I heard the small click of a lock. That sound hit me like a cold drop. I asked why he locked a drawer in our house. He said it was for important items. I said I was his wife and I had a right to everything. He said calmly that some things needed to stay secure. A few days later, I left the clinic early again. I told my manager it was for a school call. That was not true. I drove downtown because I wanted to see where Ethan went. I felt silly, but I also felt like I deserved answers. If he was keeping secrets, then my choices were justified. That is what I told myself. I parked near an office tower with glass doors that reflected the street. I waited inside my car, watching people go in and out. Then I saw Ethan. He walked across the sidewalk with steady steps. He was wearing a clean jacket, not fancy, but sharper than his home clothes. In his hand was a plain folder, tan with no logo. He looked like someone with an appointment. He did not look lost. He paused near the lobby doors and checked his phone. I saw it light up for a second. Then he slid it into his pocket and went inside. The doors closed behind him, and the building swallowed him. I got out of my car and crossed the street without thinking. I stood near the lobby, trying to look casual. My heart was beating hard. When Ethan came back out, I called his name. He did not turn, or maybe he heard and chose not to. He kept walking toward the parking garage, like he had a path and did not want distractions. For the first time in a long time, I felt real fear. Not fear of him. Fear of the unknown. Fear that he had been moving in a way I could not control. I stood there with my phone in my hand, and my thumb hovered over Cassidy's chat. I wanted to tell her Ethan was up to something. I wanted to turn it into a joke before it turned into a threat. Instead, I just stared at the glass doors and told myself, again, that I was still the one in charge. I started packing before I admitted I was leaving. That sounds backward, but it fit me. I liked actions more than truths. I liked the feeling of boxes because boxes look like decisions. I pulled a few storage bins from the garage and stacked them in the driveway where neighbors could see. I told myself it was practical. I also knew it was a message. Ethan came outside and looked at the bins without changing his face. He asked what I was doing. I said I was making space. He asked for what? I said for my sanity. He nodded once, like he was taking notes in his head. That nod made me angry, because it did not give me the reaction I wanted. I wanted him to panic. I wanted him to plead. I wanted him to say my name in a broken voice so I could tell myself I was loved. He did not. He walked back inside and came out with a small bag of Mara's clothes. He said Mara would need things in both places if we were going to do this. I said I had not decided anything. He said I was packing, so it looked decided. He asked if we could talk when Mara was not around. I said there was nothing to talk about, because he had ignored my needs for years. He said he did not want to argue in front of her. I said he was using her as a shield. He said no, he was protecting her. That word, protecting, made my skin itch. It sounded like he was the good one. Inside the house, the air felt divided. It was small, but it held two different lives now. In the kitchen, the mug still sat on opposite sides. In the hallway, the guest bed looked slightly disturbed, like someone had slept there and left early. Ethan's shoes were lined up near the door, pointed toward the street. I noticed a new key on his ring. I asked what it was for. He said it was for storage. I laughed and asked why a man with no job needed storage. He did not answer. He just turned the key in his pocket like he was checking it was there. That afternoon, I met Gavin at the cafe. I told myself I needed support. Really, I needed a witness who would tell me I was right. Gavin asked if I was finally leaving Ethan. I said I was not leaving. I was choosing myself. Gavin said those were the same thing. I said Ethan forced it by refusing to be a man. Gavin asked if Ethan would fight for me. I said Ethan never fought for anything. Gavin leaned in and asked what I wanted from him. I said I wanted someone who knew how to lead. Gavin said he could give me stability. I pictured myself walking into rooms and not feeling ashamed. I pictured people watching me and thinking I won. That picture felt more real than my marriage. When I got home, Ethan was at the table with a folder open in front of him. The folder was labeled Utilities. He closed it when I walked in, like it was normal, like he did not care if I saw. He asked if Mara could keep her usual bedtime tonight. I said yes, because I did not want to look like a chaotic mother. He asked if we could agree on pick-up times for school if I started staying elsewhere. I said he was acting like we were already divorced. He said he was acting like a parent. That night, after Mara went to bed, I tried a different tactic. I told Ethan I felt unseen. I said he never initiated affection and made me feel unwanted. He asked if I wanted to work on that together. I said I had tried, and he did not listen. He asked what tried meant. I said it meant I gave him chances. He asked when. I said he was doing it again, pretending not to remember. He said he remembered many talks, but he also remembered me turning away and saying he was too much. My mouth opened, then shut. I did not like him having a clear memory. I accused him of keeping a list to punish me. He said he was not punishing me. He said he wanted clarity because things were getting serious. I said he was overreacting. He asked if there was someone else. I said he was paranoid, and I also said he was the reason I needed space. I watched his face for any crack. He stayed calm. A soft sound came from the hallway office, like a printer spitting a page. When I looked, there was nothing on the floor. The air still smelled faintly like toner. Ethan noticed me looking and said he was organizing files. I said he was acting like a lawyer. He said he was acting like an adult. The next day, my mother called and asked if I was finally going to leave that anchor. She said people were talking and it was embarrassing to stay. I said she was right, and I felt proud hearing myself say it. Danny sent a voice note saying I should slow down and think about Mara. I replied that Danny did not understand what it was like to be stuck with a man who had no drive. Danny did not reply after that. Janet came by to drop off a container of soup for Mara. She did not come in fully. She stood on the porch like she was keeping distance. She asked if Mara was okay. I said Mara was fine and kids adapt. Janet said kids do not adapt to cruelty, they adapt to survive. I told her she was being dramatic. Janet asked me to stop posting and stop humiliating Ethan. I said Ethan humiliated himself. Janet's eyes got hard. She said Ethan was calm because he was choosing the proper way to handle this. I laughed and asked what proper meant. Janet did not answer. She just told me to think ahead for once. That line stayed in my head, so I tried to shake it out with action. I packed more. I stacked boxes near the front door. I made sure Mara saw her favorite toys placed carefully, like I was being thoughtful. I told myself that meant I was responsible. Ethan watched me tape a box and asked if I wanted a written plan for Mara's week. I said I did not need his paperwork. He said it was not paperwork, it was structure. I said structure was control. He said structure was care. I rolled my eyes and said he learned new words but still had no job. He went quiet for a long time, then spoke in a steady voice that felt different than his usual softness. He said he would handle everything properly from now on. He said it without anger. He said it like a decision already made. Later, I walked past his laptop and saw a small notification flash at the corner of the screen. It said, "File uploaded successfully." Ethan closed the laptop right after. Not fast, just final. I stood there, with a strange heat in my chest, half rage and half fear. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself he was uploading resumes. But my hands were shaking when I picked up my phone, and for the first time, I did not know who was really moving first. The courthouse lobby was brighter than I expected. The floor was shiny and every step echoed. I told myself I should not be here. I told myself Ethan was bluffing. Ethan stood near a bench with Mara and Janet. Mara held Janet's hand and looked small. Ethan did not look small at all. I walked up fast and asked why he dragged us here. He said he did not drag anyone. He came to handle things properly. I said he was trying to scare me. He said he was trying to create order. I laughed and said he loved pretending to be calm. He looked at me and asked me to lower my voice. I said I could speak how I wanted. A court worker walked toward me with a clipboard. She asked if I was Valancy Sloane. I said yes, like it was an insult. She said she needed to confirm my identity. I asked why. She said I was being served. My face went hot. I looked at Ethan and waited for him to flinch. He did not. The court worker handed me a packet. I glanced at the first page and saw my name, Ethan's name, and words I did not want to read. I said this was cruel. Ethan said it was legal. I said he was unemployed and had no right to act powerful. He said I confused employment with resources. I flipped pages fast. I saw temporary orders. I saw rules about money. I saw a schedule about Mara that started immediately. I saw a line about not moving the child without written agreement. I saw a line that said, neither of us could drain accounts or sell assets. My throat tightened. I told Ethan he was punishing me for finally living. He said he was protecting our child and protecting the home from chaos. I said he was copying me and trying to win online. He said he did not care about online. He said the court cared about facts. I saw a financial disclosure summary attached behind the first pages. I expected emptiness. Instead, I saw numbers that made my hands feel numb. I saw a trust listed. I saw investment accounts. I saw an LLC with property lines under it. I stared and whispered that it had to be fake. Ethan said it was verified, and he stayed quiet for privacy. Renee came rushing in and started talking loud. A clerk told her to step back. Danny stood behind her, pale and silent. Janet did not look at me. She just held Mara closer. I turned to the lobby doors and saw Gavin near the entrance. I tried to catch his eye. He looked away and stepped back like I was a stranger. I opened my mouth to call him, but the court worker asked me to sign that I received the papers. She said the temporary orders were effective today. I held the pen, and for the first time, my story did not matter at all.